Welcome back. Once again, we are back doing our head character modeling tutorial for VoidWorld 2.4, the latest beta. And I'm going to try to go through this relatively fast. We've already covered thus far moving our points, creating our box, which has 6 subdivisions, top to bottom, left to right, and 2 subdivisions front to back. And we have moved some of the points in to start to line them up with the side of the face. Now, it's a good idea to go ahead and save your model if you've not done so yet. And the way to do this is by clicking on File, Save Scene As. When this comes up, give it a name. A good one to start from that I use is vw_new_model_head_01.vws. The reason I use the 01 at the end of the file name is so that we, in the future, we can just simply hit save incrementally, and it will increment this number with each each subsequent revision we make to the model. So go ahead and hit save. And once you have that saved, just to show you what it's going to be like in the future, and so you also have another backup copy of it, once again go to File, this time hit Save Scene Incremental, and you should notice in the top of your toolbar here that your file name has changed. At the end of it, it should be no longer 01, it should have 02 instead. And if that is the case, then you have basically done everything that you need to get to this point, and congrats, you're learning everything as you should be. Alright, the next part of this tutorial is just going to be more of the same type of thing that we've already were doing in the other parts. We're going to be moving points around using tweak, using the middle mouse button to make sure we select all the way through the vertices, so that we're moving not just one but all of them. In the future, we're going to be wanting to move and just tweak one vertex at a time, but right now when you have a bunch of vertices, you need to move precisely so they all line up front to back. Since we have 2 layers to work with here, that's going to be 3 vertices that need to be selected. You're going to want to be in the front orthographic viewport again with nothing selected by clicking somewhere else, and then middle mouse button over top of the vertices that you want to highlight and drag a box such as this. And once you have those highlighted, go ahead and put your mouse pointer in the middle of the 2 arrows here for the move manipulator and start dragging these toward the face to start lining them up. And we really don't want the top to bottom movement yet, just the kind of side to side. And once you have those lined up, go ahead and click somewhere else again, and same thing for the other vertices. Drag you a box around them and start lining them up with the edge of the face. Once you get those points roughly where you want them to be, the other thing you need to go ahead and make sure you do is grab this center bottom vertex right here and move it up. And instead of grabbing the center of these 2 arrows, which lets you go left to right, you're only going to want to move this straight up. So you highlight just the up and down arrow, which is the green arrow, with your mouse, and drag up a little bit till it gets to the bottom of the chin, about like that. And once again, we do not need to worry about modifying the other half of this model over here on the left side, because basically we're going to model half of our character's head, and then we're just going to mirror it over and sew it all together by welding the vertices together. So don't even worry about the left side of the character's head right now at this point. Go ahead and select some of the top vertices up here on the right hand side of the character's head and drag them over so that they line up with the edge of the head, and use the same technique that we just used for the other vertices, using the middle mouse button to draw a box over the vertex. which if you switch to perspective, just to double check and rotate around, you can see that indeed 3 vertices have turned red, which is what we're wanting. And go ahead and click back on perspective to go back to front viewport. And this time we're just going to highlight the right arrow or the red arrow with our mouse and drag it to the right to line it up with the edge of our character's head, which is what we're wanting. Okay. And at this point our character's head is actually starting to look more like an actual head shape instead of a box, which is definitely what we're wanting. And the next thing that we probably are going to want to do is to start doing some of the front to back adjustments. And the way to do this is we're going to switch to the right orthographic viewport. And we need to use the Alt key and some of these other keys to maneuver our view and where we can actually see it. And you'll notice that a lot of these points are not where we need them to be. Excuse me. So we need to start grabbing them and moving them around just as we did in the past. Make sure first nothing's selected by clicking anywhere in the viewport. Then once again you're going to want to middle click over a row of vertices that you want to move, such as this bottom one here. And the way to check and see how many actually highlighted is go ahead and click where it says orthographic to go back to view or perspective viewport, and you'll notice it just got these points here that are not what we're wanting because our character's center of head is actually right here. So it's a good point to get all these other points out of the scene that we don't need right now. We're going to go ahead and highlight these polys and rip them out of the scene so we don't have to deal with them anymore. Okay. And the way to do this is to go ahead at the top of the Visual Tools menu, click the icon that has the cube with only one side of it painted red, which is the third one from the right side of the top of the Visual Tools. And then we're going to want to middle mouse button again, drag and highlight over this half of the model. And switch back to perspective. Hold down the Alt as you drag so you don't unhighlight the model, which is not what you want. Just to double check and see that yes, you have everything selected you want to get rid of, which is good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is simply hit the delete key. And once you do that, you notice that half of the character's head is gone, which is what we wanted. So now it's much easier for us to work with. And we'll switch back to front so you can see exactly what disappeared and what's left. And this is another good stopping point. So at this point you're going to want to go to File and go to Save Scene. And then go ahead and save incrementally a couple of times so you got a couple of backups. And then hit save scene one last time. I like to be better safe than sorry due to my bad experiences with Silo crashing every 30 seconds, sometimes 5 minutes you'd get out of it. But until next time, this is Ken, aka Storm3 on the forums, and I'll be back next teaching you how to mold and shape our character's head even more. Stay tuned.